I just wanted to check in for a minute and just build on today's mathematics. So today's the 25th, which in our mathematics is wisdom power. So wisdom power is a composite, or it's a manifestation of God, or supreme force, supreme intelligence. A lot of times when people build on the mathematics, they may not elaborate on how different principles forge other principles. They just may say something like, wisdom, power, all being born to God. You know? But it's important to explain to people how. How do these principles form that composite? How do these elements construct supreme intelligence or supreme force? So I just wanted to build briefly on that. So when you look at 25, or wisdom power, right? Visualize wisdom on this side of a bridge and power on the other side of that bridge. So when you consider wisdom power, the bridge itself is understanding. That's the glue that binds wisdom to power. Right? So it wouldn't be appropriate to just sit there and say, wisdom manifests power, all being born to God. No. Wisdom will manifest power through understanding, yeah. Because understanding is the bridge or the segue from wisdom to power. How? Well, when you look at wisdom being right discernment or right judgment, rightly judging or having a sense of discernment that's understood or seen for what it actually is gives you a sense of empowerment. How? Well, take for example, being in a situation in life where you have to decide whether to invest this amount of money that you have on either putting it on a bill or going out to eat or going to the grocery store and buying some food that'll last you for a few days. You're in a position now where you have to discern what is the best appropriation of your money. That's going to require wisdom. Because making a wise decision means not necessarily just taking that money and going out blowing it on something to eat at a restaurant or something. Because knowing that you're not going to have any money coming into the household for maybe the next few days. Right? At the same time, you may know that you're going to have money coming into the household in the next couple of days. So you can invest a little money on some food today, knowing that you're going to be having some more money coming into the household in the next couple of days, and taking a portion of that money and putting it on a bill. Right? That's wisdom. Knowing how to appropriate where your finances is going to go. Right? So now, by making the wisest decision with how to appropriate your finances, where to invest your money, now you put yourself in a position where you can see what is going to be the consequences or the results of how you invest that money. So now, if you don't know when you're having more money coming into your household, and you just take whatever money that you have right now and just blow it, you're eventually going to see the natural consequences of how you should have appropriated that money to begin with. You're going to see it. You're going to understand. Now, if you made the wise decision, you're also going to understand, like, okay, I'm glad that I took this money that I went to the grocery store and I invested in some stuff so that I can have some meal prep, or I can have meals for the next few days until I get more money into the household. You're going to see that that was the best decision to make. That was the right choice or right judgment. That's what wisdom is. So wisdom in tandem with understanding, 2 and 3, puts you in a position of empowerment. If you're not making wise decisions, you're going to see and understand that that wasn't the wisest decision to make. And you're also not going to have a sense of empowerment once you look at the consequences. So for example, if you would have took that little bit of money that you had and you went out and blew it, or had a good time today, for the next 2 days, you might be striving to figure out, yo, what am I going to eat? Or the next few days, you may get a bill in the mail saying that your service might get disconnected because that portion of money that you had, you could have put on your bill, contacted the company and let them know what you were doing, so that you didn't have to get a bill like that in the mail. So now a few days later, you feel more of a sense of empowerment because power is control. It's influence. So a sense of empowerment is also a sense of self-control. It's easy to tell when a person doesn't feel a sense of empowerment because they don't feel a sense of self-control. They don't feel a sense of charting their own destiny. So you have to make peace, God. You'll not kill. I'm going to call you in a little bit because I'm headed out your way for lunch. Yeah, so wisdom in tandem with understanding puts you in a position of empowerment. And one of the reasons why you may see people in different communities or even in your own family that don't feel a sense of empowerment is because those two principles or those two components are not present. There's something that they're doing that lacks wisdom, and there is something that they are also doing that lacks understanding. So the more wisdom and the more understanding that a person has, not only just about themselves, but also just about life and how they're interacting with other people, puts them in better positions to have a sense of empowerment. Right? So like I said earlier, when you look at wisdom and you look at power, look at them as two sides of a bridge. The bridge itself is understanding. You arrive at a sense of empowerment, or you know what supreme force is, through understanding when you make the wisest decisions. Now, when you look at wisdom, power, or 2 and 5, we say that it's all being born to God, or it's a manifestation of supreme force and power. Well, how do you get to the point of having a sense of empowerment to now demonstrating supreme force and power? A part of that is recognizing our sense of purpose, identifying how we can contribute to this world and make it a much better place than when we arrived here. Because when you look at what God or what the Creator represents, one of the highest characterizations of God or of the Creator is a farmer or a tender of his own field. In other words, one who is responsible for his own creation. That's one of the highest characterizations of what God, a creator, is. One who is responsible for one's own creation. Once you are in a position of having a sense of empowerment, the next question is, what are you going to do with it? There comes a certain level of responsibility of having power and being empowered. You have wisdom, you have understanding. Now you have that sense of empowerment. What are you going to do with it? And that's why I mentioned purpose. Purpose is one's natural ability to express one's sense of power. Natural ability. So now the next question is naturally, how do you find your purpose? What do you like to do? What will you do regardless to whom or what that's positive, that's progressive, that's going to add on to the lives of other people, that you're going to do regardless if you get paid from it or not? That's insight into what your purpose is. In order to really discover those things, if you don't really have a sense of what you enjoy doing or what you like doing, is you have to explore, you have to investigate, you have to strive to get involved in doing different things in order to figure out what it is that you enjoy doing. You may have a knack for being a chef. You know? You would never know that unless you put yourself in a situation where you're able to experience or experiment with some of those things. You may naturally be an artist, a musician, an advisor. There's a lot of different things that you may be naturally good at, but you wouldn't figure that out if you don't explore or experiment. Go different places. Read different things. Expose yourself to different type of music. Watch different type of programming on television. You know? Indeed, what you got a passion for. Some people don't even realize what they have a passion for because they kind of put themselves in a box. And one of the things that I posted on my Facebook page earlier, I was talking about, well, in summary, I was talking about the difference between guidance and punishment as it relates to our children. Because a lot of times we have a habit which may be intended to be good with our children, of telling them stop or don't do this or you can't do that, or putting all of these different boundaries around them. And as a child growing up in early childhood, they may interpret don't, stop, you can't do this as something that generally applies to all aspects of their life. Meaning, they may process that as they shouldn't investigate, they shouldn't be curious about things, they shouldn't experiment, they shouldn't explore. You may just be striving to provide a safe space for them or protect them, but in their mind, they're looking at it as dead ends or boundaries. So when a child is growing up under those type of circumstances, and they're always hearing no, stop, don't, you can't, they internalize that and begin to apply those restrictions or boundaries to other different aspects of their life. It also may encourage fear to investigate, to explore, to experiment, to be curious about certain things. But what happens in that process is it stifles their own growth and development, or it limits their own infinite potential. So things that they should learn about themselves in terms of discovering a passion, they may not even strive to do it because they've been taught for so many years, don't, stop, you can't, you know? And I know that a lot of us are well-meaning when we share that, but we also have to be conscious that sometimes our language becomes dead ends or boundaries that restricts the growth and development of our children and others. So instead of using that language, one of the more appropriate ways to encourage curiosity, experimentation, exploration, investigation, is to provide our children or youth or others, adults, with detours as opposed to dead ends. So, as I put in my post, instead of saying don't stop or do this, that, and the third, sometimes it may be more appropriate to step in and say, yo, let me show you how to do this. You're not telling them don't, you're not telling them stop, but you're redirecting or guiding them or teaching them how to navigate a landscape where you may see pitfalls or you may see restrictions or boundaries or places that are not safe. So, it doesn't mean that we should never tell youth or children or other people stop or don't. But what it means is to be conscious that guidance is oftentimes the most appropriate approach in terms of encouraging a person's growth and development as opposed to punishment. Right? So now, when a person is encouraged in that type of way, it helps build self-esteem, it helps build confidence, and it is encouraging to them in a way where now they can start discovering these passions, these latent abilities that they came into this physical plane with, where they may be willing to strive to investigate certain things beyond where they live at, or go different places, or to read different things, or to listen to different type of music, or to look at different type of programs, or even engage different people and develop friendships with people that don't look like them. You know, all of those things are a part of the terrain of self-discovery and us being able to find what our purpose and our passion is. So now, in discovering purpose, that is also where you're able to ascertain supreme force and power. You know, in other words, in like the Christian church or other religions, they may put it this way. They may say, well, you found out what your calling is, or what your anointing is, or what God put you on the earth to do. You know, people may use that kind of language, and I'm referring to the same thing in application. Wisdom and understanding manifest power or a sense of empowerment. Once you have that sense of empowerment, the next step is what should you do with it? Like I said, in the Christian church, they say, you're here to do God's work. You're doing what God ordained you to do. You're doing what God blessed you to do. That's the kind of language that is used in the Christian church and in other different religions. I'm saying in practice or in application, some of the same things. You know, it's through wisdom and understanding that you manifest a sense of empowerment. And once you have that sense of empowerment, it is your responsibility to take care of creation. Like you've heard the phrase before, with great power comes great responsibility. That great responsibility is supreme force and power. So that's one of the reasons why we say that wisdom, power, borns God or manifests God. So when we talk about the original man represents the archetype of what I'm actually explaining to you. You know? So, just wanted to take a moment and just build about the mathematics and just how it applies, you know. Whenever we're talking about God or supreme force and power, there are different qualities and characteristics that naturally are a part of that conversation. Because if they aren't, that is when we begin to start seeing the devolution of God. Or the atrophy of what God is. Well, what's an example of what I'm talking about? Well, just what I was saying about empowerment and responsibility that comes along with being in a position of empowerment. Some people don't even think about responsibility. Responsibility is a combination or a composite of two words, respond and ability. You're only in that position because that position allows you to respond to the environment and to others with that ability. That's what responsibility is. It's your duty. So whenever a person's in a position like that, the next step is to evolve in that responsibility and in that duty. What allows you to do that is purpose, intentionality. Think about people who you see every day that don't really have a sense of purpose. Where their energy, where their time, where their finances are directed. But then look at others who have that sense of purpose and how they direct their energy, their time, and their finances. There's a sense of intentionality that goes along with that. They're very intentional about that. And you also see that this isn't a job to them or a career. It's their life's work. They're going to do it regardless. One of the things that Russell Simmons once said is, and I'm paraphrasing it, do what you love well enough and people will begin to pay you for it. That is an illustration or an example of one's purpose. Think about things that you do well and that you love doing, that you're going to do regardless to whom or what. And the beautiful thing about the era that we live in is that we have the capacity to monetize a lot of the things that we do. So when it comes to purpose, it's much easier. Let me put this in real quick. Yeah, it's much easier to get a sense of what that is. But yeah, I just wanted to build briefly. Headed out to lunch, but thank y'all for tuning in. I gotta be out. Peace.